themselves. Some activists say they're surprised that they found such a large amount of mainstream outrage. This expected outpouring of support here tonight is a sign of just how important this veto is. And a few people have started to gather off to my left. About 24 cars are now here, and joining me now, coming right in here into the picture, is Greg Pettis of the Gay and Lesbian Alliance of the Desert. First of all, Greg, what type of message are you expecting to send to Governor Wilson here tonight?
Well, we're really interested in letting him know that the displeasure that's being shown throughout the state is not limited to the larger cities of LA, San Francisco, and San Diego, but even here in conservative Palm Springs, that there are a lot of people that are very upset that he's turned his back on the gay community. Now,
there have been some quotes in some newspapers from gay leaders saying that gays have been mobilized and radicalized by this veto. Is that indeed true?
Well, I think so. I think that people here in the Valley realize that the gay community here, for the most part, has been in more of a supportive role, looking at how they can help their local cities, helping each other through the AIDS crisis, and really only mobilizing when it comes to some basic civil rights issues. We did that in Palm Springs recently with the Human Rights Ordinance and AB101, and now, of course, here where we're getting into a much larger demonstration to show the state that we're serious too.
Is this expected to be a very peaceful demonstration?
Yes, yes. We anticipate no violence, and we're meeting with all of our people now and counseling them on what to do and what not to do and how to conduct themselves.
Greg Pettis of GLAAD, thank you very much for joining us. Okay, now there have been a lot of organizers just starting to stream in here down 111. Parking is a problem, and we will talk about that in just a minute.
John, what's the strategy of law enforcement in Indian Wells, and is there any fear that this protest could in fact disrupt the governor's plans for the fundraising dinner tonight?
Well, the Sheriff's Department outside here is very low in numbers. There are a lot of Sheriff's Department officials inside the Racket Club just behind me. That is where Governor Wilson is holding the fundraiser for Tricia Hunter. And I spoke with an investigator out here before. He said inside security is very tight, and interestingly enough, the governor will have a couple of private helicopters hovering above the complex here. It's his own way of keeping his private security having some control of the situation, and we will have more on this later on in your show.
Okay, John, of course, we'll check back with you a bit later, as you said. Thank you very much. Well, in Sacramento earlier today, Governor Wilson said California's strapped economy may force another round of state budget cuts, and Wilson says those cuts may come in the current budget year. The news follows a report today by the State Employment Development Department that unemployment reached 7.7% in California. That's up from 7.3% a month ago. And state forecasters say California's economy has suffered far more in the recession than had been projected. Well, time for running protesters which are greeting Governor Pete.
Mark, as you can see behind me, the crowd here at the Indian Wells Racket Club has swelled since we first came on at the top of the hour. Approximately 100 people are here now, gay rights activists protesting the arrival of Pete Wilson, who's expected here shortly. He will be raising funds for Assemblywoman Tricia Hunter. These activists have been chanting things like "One-term Pete," "Wilson is a liar," and a lot of other things. We'll, of course, have more for you at the top of the 6 o'clock report. Reporting live from Indian Wells, John Hertz.
Finally tonight in Grand Junction, Colorado, residents got quite a surprise report.
Good evening. Hundreds of gay rights activists from both here in the Coachella Valley and the Los Angeles area are gathering in Indian Wells right now. They're in the desert to protest Governor Pete Wilson's recent veto of gay rights legislation. The governor is appearing at the Indian Wells Racket Club tonight to help raise money for Assemblywoman Tricia Hunter. KESQ's John Hertz is at the protest with the story. John.
Well, Phil, as you can see behind me, the gay rights activists are protesting right now, awaiting the arrival of Governor Wilson, who's expected here any time now. They've been protesting his veto of the Gay Rights Discrimination Act, which he vetoed this past Sunday. It's been a very peaceful demonstration thus far. There are only about 100 people so far. There are more than what you're seeing right now. They're down the street towards La Quinta. They have been very vocal, but as one police sergeant called it, very peaceful. Everything has been very orderly. Now, inside the complex, security is supposedly very, very tight. A number of law enforcement officials are in there right now. And right now outside, as you can see, they're coming right at us. They're chanting equal rights now. Chants of "One-term Pete" have been heard out here, as well as "Wilson is a liar." So as you can see, this has been a very, very vocal group, and it is expected to grow a little bit more. Some of these people from Los Angeles are starting to come in now, and they are really getting their point across. They have not stopped traffic at all, but they are getting their point across very loud and clear that they are not happy with Governor Wilson's attitude towards the gays and the lesbians around the state of California. Reporting live from Indian Wells, John Hertz, KESQ TV News.
All right, John, thank you. And, of course, we'll have a complete update for you tonight at 11 o'clock.
Sean McLaughlin weather, Gloria Greer's Stars on the Desert, and the rest of the KMIR-TV News team.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Gay rights activists from across the state are converging on Indian Wells at this hour. They've lined up outside the Racket Club to protest Governor Pete Wilson's veto of the gay rights bill earlier this week.
Wilson is in town tonight to attend a Republican fundraiser, and the protesters hope to make his visit as uncomfortable as possible. C.J. Ward has just returned from the scene and is standing by live in the newsroom with more.
That's right, Chris. Cars began lining up along Highway 111 around 4:30 today, and the protest was underway by 5, with more than 60 people carrying signs and chanting and yelling slogans from everything from "Wilson is a liar" to "Wilson has declared war."
What do we want? Equal rights now! What do we want? Equal rights now!
Most of the protesters are from the Valley, but there are a handful of activists who made the trip from Los Angeles to support the gay and lesbian groups here in the desert. This is the 5th day of protesting by gay rights supporters since Wilson vetoed AB 101. They have made it clear they will hound Governor Wilson for betraying them.
1969, we're calling this the California Stonewall. People are upset, they're angry, we're not going to take it anymore, and many of us, like GLAAD, or like the organization GLAAD, we're against people defaming and discriminating against us, and so we're out to stop it.
It's brought people together. There's a rage that says something as simple as adding us for non-discrimination to an already piece of legislation that's non-discriminatory is the worst kind of slap in the face.
About 10 minutes before the protest started, a bus loaded with sheriff's deputies entered the Racket Club dressed in riot gear as a precautionary measure. Wilson is expected to arrive at the Racket Club, or was, around 5:45 to attend a fundraiser for Assemblywoman Tricia Hunter at a private residence. It would be interesting to see how she feels about all of this going on at her fundraiser, but we have not been able to get any reaction from her yet. Dana, Chris, back to you.
CJ, I doubt that this fight is over, even though Governor Wilson will be leaving the Valley in a short while. Do you know what the protesters have planned for the coming weeks?
Well, some of the protesters are saying that there may be a boycott of some businesses throughout the state, and on October 11th, they may have a work stoppage, and knowing that we have a high gay population here in the Valley, that could affect us greatly.
All right, thank you, CJ, for that live report from the newsroom. We'll have more details at 11. Christine?
Communicated to us while he was campaigning.
Some of the protesters say they don't like Clinton's policy, but at the same time credit him with at least trying to make a change.
I agree with most of my brothers and sisters in the gay movement that this is not a perfect solution, but I'd have to also venture the thought that half a loaf is better than none.
Today's protesters included members of the Valley chapter of the National Organization for Women, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance of the Desert, the Log Cabin Republican Club, and the Democratic Association of the Coachella Valley. Well,
we're not enforcing it. So it's basically the city has really done nothing but send out letters and nobody's paying any attention to it. That's why we organized a protest today.
The store's owner says he stocks the shirts because they're popular sellers with a spring break crowd. By the way, the shirts are a little bit too explicit for us to show you.
Coming up next in its political concerns tonight during a public forum of the city's mayoral candidates. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance of the Desert, or GLAAD, invited 4 of the top mayoral candidates to speak about their views. Members of the gay community say they have been looking to improve relations with city leaders.
Periodically, we try to have groups or participants come here and share their ideas and their viewpoints with the gay and lesbian community here in the desert.
3 candidates who were not invited to attend the forum showed up anyway to express their views. Questions were raised as to why only 4 candidates were invited to attend this particular forum.
The candidates chosen were not chosen because, of any particular viewpoint that they have now. Basically, the 4 people that were chosen seem to be the top 4 potential vote getters, the people that consistently in the community were being named by other groups as being the popular candidates.
And another community say they plan to become much more visible in upcoming municipal elections valley-wide. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance of the Desert met tonight to plan strategy, and KESQ's John Hertz has a look at what to expect.
If the gay and lesbian community has anything to do with it, they'll make a difference in the Local 92 vote. In the past, many gays feel they've been given lip service every 4 years, and then once elections are over, council members turn their backs on them. In Palm Springs, so far, it's incumbent Sonny Bono versus Councilman Tuck Broik for mayor. Councilman Earl Neal won't seek re-election, so 2 seats are open. It's no secret the gays currently like 2 relatively new council members.
Palm Springs especially has really closed their ears to us. With the few exceptions like Dana Hodges and Chuck Morosky, the majority of council has just said that they're not interested in listening to us anymore.
Bono says candidates need to look at the big picture, at Palm Springs as a whole and not at special interest groups. However, every issue should be looked at, including gay rights.
If there are needs that are not covered, then they should be covered, and I would dedicate myself to that. But again, I just don't think that, I think there would be a problem if you start fractionalizing.
We want non-discrimination legislation in every city in the valley. That's automatic. It has to happen. We want people that will listen to us, that will sit down, talk to us with an open mind and be willing to hear what we have to say. And we certainly don't have that now.
Broik declined comment on the gay issue, saying he needed to give it some thought before going public.
Although it's still very early in the game, it's a safe bet that by the time the candidates start their full campaign swing, they'll have something to say one way or the other regarding the gay issues. If not, they just might find themselves outside of these doors come the April election. In Palm Springs, John Hertz, KESQ TV News.